Well, welcome to another rendition of It's a Family Affair. This is brought to you by the Maryland Center for Health Equity. I'm Omar Neal, and I will be one of your hosts for today's conversation. I'm the former mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama, as well as the host of the You Got the Power show. And of course, it's a family affair. We're going to be talking about falling through the cracks and how safe is your inner circle from COVID-19. How do we have this conversation to engender trust about getting vaccinated? That's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm in a special space, and we'll talk about that a little later on. But before I do anything, I'm going to bring on my sidekick. They call him Dr. T, and Dr. Stephen Thomas. Hey, man, how you doing?
Hey, Mr. Mayor. It's always great to be with you here on Thursdays and to see what we have set in motion. And just as people were starting to relax and say, oh, we're getting back to normal, guess what? A variant arrives of concern. Yeah. And now we're back. In some ways, people feel like they're back to, well, one step back, hopefully not two steps. But you know what, Omar, was so interesting, no matter what, is that what we are supposed to do in the face of Omicron or any other variant is exactly what we've been admonishing throughout this entire pandemic. Social distance, wear your mask, or we should say respiratory protection. All face coverings are not equal, and really helping our people understand the importance of getting vaccinated, which means getting your doses and your boosters. Yeah. Now, we just came back from Thanksgiving, so I can't wait to hear what kind of conversations took place at the Thanksgiving table.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You know, interestingly enough, I told you that I was in a special place. Well, I'm here at the National Black Caucus of State Legislators Conference. It's their 45th legislative conference, and here in the ATL, we call it Atlanta, Georgia. And of course, you know, interestingly enough, I had an opportunity to speak to the conference. And so, you know, with all of the legislators from around the entire country, African-American legislators. And so it's a great conference. I'm still here, as you know, and we're going to talk about it. Now, let me say this too, Dr. T. Do you know it was a requirement that everybody get vaccinated before they can come to the conference? I mean, you know, where you had to literally upload your vaccination card that had to be authenticated, right? Before you got approval to come to this conference.
Look at our tagline, Omar, your inner circle. We have professional inner circles. How do we keep them safe? And in other parts of the world, in Europe, that's routine. In Canada, they don't mandate vaccines, but what they mandate is if you want to go to a public place, you got to show your vaccination card. Right. So we got work to do to depoliticize what's going on when it comes to getting vaccinated. And Omar, it did concern me reading the paper today that in some states, down south where you are, some of those states, where they're actually paying people to not get vaccinated.
You know, I think that's egregious. You know, you told me that, and it's hard to believe, Dr. T, when you know, over 780,000 people have died from COVID-19 so far, and growing. And for people who know better, now that there's a difference between misinformation, which is ignorance, spreading ignorance, and disinformation, which is intentionally misleading people that can lead to either severe illness or death. And I think that's where it becomes even a more egregious. And I think that at some juncture, we're going to have to look at what kind of consequences, if you know better, when you encourage people not to get vaccinated, what kind of, should there be some consequences for that? Because it really hurts all of us.
Absolutely. And Mr. Mayor, just one more thing before we share our lineup for today. Another breaking news Antonio Brown. I know Antonio Brown because I lived in Pittsburgh for 10 years. Okay.
Right.
So
Right.
black and gold runs in this house too. Had a fake vaccine card. They exposed him and he has been suspended on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because of that.
Yeah.
What is it with these sports figures? These are influencers in their own right. If any of our guests have kids that look up to these athletes, what message is that?
Well, to have a fake ID is really, obviously it can hurt other people, but it's more damaging to you because you have this illusion that you are, or delusion that you are safe, and you aren't. You are very vulnerable. And the more people go out without being vaccinated, the more they're playing Russian roulette with their lives. And that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. And I'm going to talk about this. Let's bring our guest on because I want them to engage in the conversation as well. We really got some exciting people coming up. We got a star, Dr. Ian Moore. He's been on with us before. He's a graduate of Tuskegee University, so he is really, really special to me. You all know that. But he's the section chief for the infectious disease pathogens section at the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Disease. And of course, you see all of his credentials, so we're not going to go through all of that, but he's a really, really wonderful resource. It was back in a few months ago when we first saw a video of Dr. Moore explaining COVID-19, and he did it in a way that his children would understand. It was the most profound video that I've seen. In fact, I've sent that video around to many, many people to explain how COVID works and what the vaccine does and how it interfaces. And so we are so excited to have back a friend of what we're doing, Dr. Ian Moore. Hey, Dr. Moore, how you doing?
You're muted, brother. You're muted. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. And I don't know if I'm letting the cat out of the bag, but are you going to be changing your climate a little later on?
Yes, I am. I will be leaving NIH and I'll be heading down to Emory University for a position down there. Take what I do here at NIH and take it back down south where I'm originally from. I'm originally from Alabama, so this puts me closer to home and my family, and I get a chance to raise my boys in the South like I grew up. So
wow,
yeah.
Congratulations. I taught at Emory for 8 years. It's a great place. And you should know that if one of our barbers out of Atlanta is on, and I think he is, he's going to want to be talking to you.
Oh, hey. Yeah. I'm gonna be looking for him too.
Hey, Omar, I just want to show this before we open up and introduce some of our other headliners. We want to always have a chance to share with the audience examples of the posters and the creatives that are being produced out there across the country. And you see here on the left, the Pfizer Janssen vaccine there that took place, community COVID-19 vaccination clinic, and then the one there on the right. Meg, if you can hear me, you can just do with your voice and just say something about these shops.
So these are shops that have completed their Shots at the Shop program recently. I believe we've introduced the shop on the left before, but the shop on the right is Bougie Nail Boutique in Erie County, New York.
I just love the creativity that's out there, Omar. And again, because of the moment we're in the pandemic, the fact that we're associated with a national initiative, these are artifacts that can be curated, stored, and hopefully live in the National Library of Congress.
I love these names.
Yeah, they're very unique.
Yeah, Bougie Nail Boutique. I love that. Yeah,
I'm
that's,
I'm
that's
going to
cold.
stop. I'm going
That's
to stop.
cold shop, as they say, right?
There you go. I'm going to stop sharing so you can introduce some of our other headliners.
Absolutely. And we have, as always, a regular for us, and not just a regular, but part of our team, Dr. Carol Ritter, who's with us, that gives us her expert opinion of being a gynecologist. She is able to navigate and help us to not move too far away from the science. As we know, we have the conversation, but we do want to keep the science clear so we don't confuse people out there with what we're talking about. So Dr. Ritter keeps us straight. So Dr. Carol Ritter is with us. Hey, Dr. Ritter, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's great to see you. We missed each other on Thanksgiving week. I really missed y'all. I had conversations around the Thanksgiving table about you all here, hoping that it would take some people's minds, but it's great to be seen here with you.
Absolutely. It's always good to have you. And then we got the man on the streets, Chris Sherlock Holmes, we call him, but Chris Sherlock. And hey, Chris, how you doing, man? What's going on? Unmute.
How's everyone doing? I'm just glad to be back on.
Absolutely.
Dr. Ritter said, I'm just glad to be back. Glad to be back in the zone. Glad to be back around the table. Glad to see family. Just glad to be here.
Right. Well, let me say this. I think I now understand the frustration that people have. I see where people, they got hundreds of people here. I don't know how many, but multiple hundreds of people here. And many of them cannot identify each other than looking at their badge because of these masks, right? These are people who've been friends and, for years, right? There's colleagues and friends, and they want to hug them and they want to do everything. And you see some hesitancy, and you see some people wearing masks, some people not, although this is a mandatory vaccine area. Everybody has to be vaccinated, but you see that the emotional tug of war that people are going through. I can imagine as we went through Thanksgiving, hugging somebody, did I hurt myself? Did I hurt them? Particularly if you don't know their vaccine status. So that's something, and we're going to talk about, is that some kind of psychological thing? Because we do have a need to connect to people, right? And how much does that deal with us in our psyche, right? So we'll talk about that. We got a new variant out, and that's why we really want to bring Dr. Ian Moore on. And Dr. Moore can kind of tell us a little bit about this variant. And again, Dr. Moore, I want you to help us to understand that variants are not unique to the virus area. That this is something that's predictable. That that variants can be created. We don't know if they're going to be significant in terms of their impact, but we do know that the process of the virus is to survive. And so it mutates and creates different variants as it enters into different bodies. And so it just wants to live, right? And as Dr. Ritter said, it also wants to knock the Delta off the dance floor. So let's talk a little bit about that. Unmute Dr. Moore. Let's talk.
All right. Can you hear me?
He can hear you well.
All right. Yeah, my video is frozen, but yeah, you're exactly right. We have a new variant. It was identified in South Africa. And so what I want to make sure that people understand too is I know we always talk about sequencing and new variants, but I want you to understand where that comes from. So it basically, sequencing is basically like reading a recipe of like your grandmother has a recipe for a cake, and it's handed down over generation to generation. You know what it is, but what happens is people can make changes in it. Sometimes the changes don't make it taste different. sometimes you leave some of the major things out and it turns into a very different thing. And so that's what we're doing here. If you can still hear me. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I can hear you well.
All right. Yeah, and so what we're trying to do is, I mean, in South Africa, so the thing is, I want to make sure people understand too, is there's nothing special about South Africa in generating variants. It's very likely that this variant is present in various places across the country. South Africa just has a very good surveillance system in determining whether or not these variants are present. So Omicron is just one of the more recent ones that they identified. And so when they read this recipe, they can see where the changes occurred. And so these changes sometimes occur. You've heard about the spike protein.
Mhm.
Spike protein is the vaccines, is what the vaccine is using to help you build a defense against the virus. And so if you have changes in the viruses that are circulating that occur in that spike protein, the fear is that could basically the fear is that could evade the vaccine's response. That's what the fear is. And so that's why we're being very cautious and very careful about it. But anecdotally, the 3 cases that I think that have been identified in the US so far in California, Minnesota, and Colorado, if I'm not mistaken. All 3 of them have been fairly mild cases. And they have been, I know at least 2 of the 3 have been in people who were vaccinated. And so the question is it mild because they were vaccinated, or is it mild because it is a milder infection? And we don't know. It's too early. It's too early to tell. But the point is that you should be vaccinated so that just in case you are exposed, at the very most severe, you would have a mild case, as we're seeing right now. And that's the hope, that the protection provided by the vaccine and the boosters is going to get you over the hump.
So it doesn't make any sense for somebody to say, well, they're going to have different variants, so I might as well not get vaccinated because, they're going to have different variants. So once you get the answer, they change the question.
Yeah, that's not going to work. There are lots of people who are going to have certain principles that they stand on when it comes to getting vaccinated. But that's going to, in some cases, that has been people's, last words, is their belief in what the virus doesn't care what your belief is. Just to be honest, it doesn't care what your belief is. It doesn't care who you voted for. It doesn't care what your opinion is. The virus is looking, as Dr. Ritter said, it's looking to survive. These viruses are very, very smart. I know it sounds funny to give a very human quality like intelligence to a virus, but that's why they've been around for thousands and thousands of years. They have learned, right? They're before us. And so my background is flu immunology and virology, and influenza viruses have been around since the ancient Egyptians. And it has been changing and transforming. That's why we have to get a vaccine every year, because it changes just enough to hide from your immune response from the previous year. So this virus is very similar in that as long as we allow it to continue to replicate in people who are unvaccinated, it's going to have the opportunity to change and mutate to survive, and it finds its next mask or next outfit that it wants to put on, and it keeps on going.
What's so interesting is that we're at a point that we have to ask ourselves, and this is why we chose, falling through the cracks, how safe is your inner circle? Because, we had Thanksgiving this last week, and there were a lot of people who came together for Thanksgiving dinner. And I don't know if people know or didn't know or asked or didn't ask whether or not people were vaccinated. But we do know that if you are not vaccinated, then you are very vulnerable. And so is it time now, and I want to ask both you, Dr. Moore, and you, Dr. Ritter, is it time now to have a heart-to-heart, family-to-family conversation about the family getting vaccinated, that we all want to get vaccinated so that we can protect the family? And I want to start with you, Dr. Moore, since Dr. Ritter's with all the time, because Dr. Ritter just had people over to her house, or she went somewhere with family. So I want to kind of know how she felt personally. Now you go with it, Dr. Moore.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I actually had a gathering myself with some close friends of ours who we've been doing it with for the last, 5 years. We didn't do it last year, even though people were slowly getting vaccinated. We still took took time and just did it socially distanced. But this year we got back together, and I'm not gonna lie, it felt good. It felt good to be in the presence of people. I didn't have a mask on. I saw my friends, I gave them a hug. They have kids, and so the kids saw me and they ran over to me, my kids running to them. And so if you want to get back to that, the best way you can do it and be at least somewhat secure about it is to get vaccinated. And it really surprises me how much people are making, to some degree, or people are still making a very big deal about getting vaccinated and them not being forced to do anything. But you're at this point now, you have opportunity. It's essentially it's preventable in the sense of you having severe disease and dying. You have a choice. I'm going to share a couple of real life experiences that just recently happened. I took my kids out to the bus stop the other day. One of the people in my neighborhood, her mother, just passed away 24 hours ago from COVID, unvaccinated. So, so I'm still hearing these things real time, every day. My kids go to school. I got 2 emails in the last 2 days. There's been a confirmed COVID positive case in this class. Kids have to come home, or whatever the case may be. So then I'm gonna move forward. There's a lady in my life and I'm gonna say my mother, very, very close. I'm very, very close to my mom. My mom had a medical condition where she had to be immune suppressed for a while. Luckily, she was vaccinated, but she had somebody came by her house, just completely random, very, very casual, talking to her. Next thing I know, my mom said she's congested. We're talking about this. So long story short, my mom had COVID. She had COVID while she was immunosuppressed. But let me tell you, her symptoms were stopped at just about her being kind of a little bit off, not wanting to eat much. She had a little bit of a fever. She had congestion, but that's it. Now, I'm saying this now because I can only imagine if she had not listened to me,
right,
and had not been vaccinated, we would be having a very different scenario right now.
right.
So
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, please continue.
No, that was it. I just wanted, I'm sharing these things. I'm trying to be transparent for the people who are listening, because this is not made up. This affects you. As you sit here and listen to this, if you are making your decision, this affects you. You could pass by somebody, have a casual conversation in the restaurant with somebody, in the grocery store, and that person can be asymptomatic and be shedding virus and spitting it right in your face, and you don't even know it. And you go home, and your whole world changes in a matter of a couple of days.
Right.
It's just like that.
Interesting. A lady that was on a panel today talked about the same thing, that she caught COVID, and she said, I almost died. And she was on a panel today. And so when you get these, real life stories, it puts it in another, context. This is not an academic exercise. We're literally trying to save lives. And so that's why we are having these conversations every day, because we do need to protect ourselves by protecting our inner circle and protecting the community. That's why we don't call it herd immunity, we call it community immunity, because we are trying to protect the entire community by getting everybody vaccinated. And so Dr. Ritter, don't tell me about the turkey, tell me about the conversation.
I ate the leftovers. Yeah. No, I was invited to several different places, and really depended on who they were. And one of them was outside. I didn't know who they were. I didn't want to ask if they were vaccinated because I didn't really know them. And one of them was a friend of mine who I knew her son-in-law is not vaccinated. And I said, well, I'm not going to come over if he's not vaccinated. And she actually said when he got to the dinner, she asked, hey, John, are you vaccinated yet? And, his response was, well, I didn't get my booster yet. I mean, thinking that was a cute comment,
Yeah.
Like, I didn't get my booster. She said, what does that mean? You're vaccinated? I didn't get my booster yet. Like, that's this stupid information that we get out there. But I did go to a family that was fully vaccinated, and I had a wonderful time, and didn't know them before, but I knew half of them. So it was really lovely. And, we had a great time. I met, I had great conversations with people that I wouldn't have met before because they were a fully vaccinated family. But I've seen in my office unvaccinated people, and they're getting COVID not once, but twice. And now today I had somebody who had it 3 times. I mean, Dr. Moore, are we studying these people? I mean, they're saying that they've got natural immunity, right? And they don't because they keep getting the damn, virus.
It is frustrating for the health professionals.
Hold up. Did we say beep? Now.
They keep getting the virus.
That's my girl. Go ahead.
It's gotta be.
You need to be just as real as you are, because that's what we do here. Dr. Moore, and then we're going to find out what's happening with Chris on the streets, what you're hearing, Chris. Dr. Moore, it's like people don't realize, because I've heard people say, I eat well, and I exercise, and I drink water, and I take vitamins, and so therefore my immune system is really well enough to protect me. Does that matter, or is it adequate? Maybe that's a good question.
Well, I guess I would respond to that by saying I drive well. I follow the speed limit. But if you have an accident, it's a very different scenario. I can't say I'm not gonna wear a seatbelt because I drive well. So the point is, you can have a healthy immune system, but the biggest point is, why even expose your immune system or put your immune system under that pressure when you can prevent it in the first place? Because it's amazing to me how we're searching for, and when I say we, but people are searching for treatments and holistic treatments and therapies and treatments when you can prevent it. Right. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, we're out here taking, and I'm a veterinarian by training, so I know very well about ivermectin, because I used to want to be an equine veterinarian. So you want to deworm a horse, you can give them ivermectin. But why would you go and take a horse medication that is not recommended in this case for use in humans, yet you won't take a vaccine that has been FDA approved for use in humans? So it's it's not matching up. It's not matching up. So people, I'd rather somebody just be honest and say, I'm scared to take it. I can work with that. But now if you want to sit here and make up all these reasons that you're vegan, but you don't want to take it because their animals were used in testing, but yet when you get ready to, and this is a true story. There's a woman who was vegan and said she didn't want to take the vaccine, but then when she was literally, and I don't joke about this at all, when she's on her deathbed, she was begging for that vaccine. But the vaccine doesn't work after you're already sick.
Right.
So, these are real scenarios.
Yeah, we've heard doctors say that all the time, Dr. Moore, that when people contract COVID and they end up getting ready to be intubated, first thing they say, please, can you give me the vaccine? And like you say, they say, it's too late for that now. See what we can do to save your life at this point.
Right.
But with some therapeutics or something that they may be able to have, right at that point, it's too late. And that's what we don't want it to be, too late so that you become the late. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, there's one other aspect about this virus that is different that we need to put on the table. And it's something I heard Dr. Fauci say, and that is, in the history of virology and all this science, this is the first one that the infection is driven by the asymptomatic, by people who have no symptoms. They're the ones spreading. And all the other viral diseases, it's the people coughing and sneezing and spreading. These are people walking around feeling perfectly healthy, no symptoms. They're the ones spreading it. That hasn't happened before. That makes this very, very difficult to get on top of.
Right. You're right. Dr. Fauci made a statement, but I want to go to Chris and kind of talk to him about it. I know, Chris, we were kind of out last week, but I'm sure that you are getting some comments on what's happening on the streets. Unmute yourself and let's see what let's have this conversation. Chris is the one, he's the person, Dr. Moore, that goes on the streets and he works with the barbers and the stylists, bringing them on board with us, but he's also hearing what people are actually saying when there's no microphone or no cameras, right? And then we bring that to the conversation so we can kind of dissect it and see if we can come up with ways to frame the issue. So what you're hearing on the streets, Chris?
Sure thing. One thing that's repeatedly resonating is it's just the mistrust. Mistrust of government, mistrust of medical, just a combination of things. I had an opportunity to go along on one of another projects, which was a community canvassing project, and we were trying to develop a tack for how to get people to engage with us. And so I noticed that a lot of people who were just sort of standing around, they were more willing to engage with us, whereas individuals who were going in and out of the stores, they really did not want to stop and have anything to say. Even the ones that were willing to speak with us, they still really weren't receptive to what we were trying to get them to understand. The ones that are not vaccinated, they're pretty much set on it's being created too fast. The uncertainties of why do we have to keep getting multiple doses? And they're just a lot of questions that are being posed. And then you have the group that are being told. And that's going to be a uphill battle because grown adults don't like to be told what to do.
Right. Well, let me say this, and I want to bring this into conversation because one of the problems we have and challenges is that we're trying to educate people about viruses who not in that field, right? And so there are certain things that people like Dr. Moore and Dr. Ritter, you all know these things that the general public doesn't know. And it doesn't make sense to them because we look at quick fixes. If you do this, then this fixes it and that's it, right? And what they don't know is not a quick fix when you're dealing with viruses because there are so many, as they call them, variants, but there's so many variables as it relates to dealing with that. And so, Dr. Moore, I want you to take me back to the 5th grader and talk to people about, why do you have to get more than one shot? Let's just take that one thing because I've heard that a lot. If it was so good, you would do one shot and that was it, right?
Yeah.
Right. So take us back to that, and then also, I think we have to do a better job at messaging and managing expectations, right? And that's something, and being honest and candid with people to let people know that there may be another one. There may be, Dr. Thomas say, it may become endemic, right? Where, like the flu, where we may have to take booster shots or take shots every year. We don't know. But take me to the 5th grade and explain to Chris so Chris got to go back and talk to these.
Right.
So you explained it to Chris at the 5th grade level now.
Break it down. Go ahead, break it down.
Where the cows can get it now.
What is waning immunity? What is that?
They don't use those kind of terms, man. They're just gonna put it where the cows can get it. You're the best I've seen at this point. So go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, I understand the question. And just as much as he's on the street, I try to keep my ear to the street too. I mean, I try to talk to people and get their understanding of what is it about it they don't trust. Now, I'll go back to that. The number one thing he mentioned is that there's a mistrust of government. Hey, historically, is there a precedent for that? Yeah, there is. But the reality is that at this point now, I'm the first to ask. Like, you throw that at me and you say, "Well, I don't trust the government." Okay, that's a fair position. Now, my question will be, I will come back and say, well, what is there to gain? Like, so if there is some mistrust, there's got to be some angle that the government is trying to take if that's the case. So what is the government trying to achieve? Because it's clearly not, if it were the opposite situation, and if it were a situation where, let's say that earlier in the pandemic, some of the vaccines were only going to predominantly white areas. And then it was it was weird because it's like, I don't want to get vaccinated, but why aren't the vaccines in my area? I'm like, so you can't have it both ways. Either you want to get a vaccine or you don't want to get a vaccine. But what is there to be achieved by, because everybody's being vaccinated. This is not a color issue. Everybody's being vaccinated. So what is the objective? My question is, what's the objective of the government to try to take out millions and millions of people by vaccinating them? I just don't see the angle there. So I let that
include them, because everybody here was in the government, and all of them were required to be vaccinated. So
right.
If the government wants to kill you, then there wouldn't be vaccination, because they all had to get vaccinated to get it, right? So at least the people.
If I want to be very real with it, if it were an angle where they wanted to try to get rid of people, it wouldn't be vaccines. You're right, because that's something that people are already hesitant and reluctant to do. It would be your diabetes medication, which think blood pressure medication, things that you just take once you are diagnosed. You don't ask any questions. You just immediately go to CVS and start filling prescriptions. Mm-hmm. These are the things that we have to ask questions about. And this pandemic has only made it more apparent that we just need to do more preventative health care measures. Stop falling into the pit of being sick and want to get treated. Let's try to prevent getting sick in the first place. And this vaccine is a prime example of that. But the whole thing about the vaccine being made too fast, I've addressed this too. When you're in a pandemic, none of us living right now have ever been in a pandemic. None of us living it. Pandemics typically come every 100 years or so. Last one was 1918. Now I can't say that it won't be sooner than that. Now that the intervals might shrink a little bit now, but the point is that when you have in the middle of a pandemic, and you have groups that were, for me, my lab was doing work on all types of viruses, infectious diseases, but they recruited me and others to do only that. The government paid money up front. They subsidized it. They said, hey, we got to get a handle on this. They gave money up front. That's actually the longest, that's the most lagging part of a vaccine development process, is generating money between phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. If the government pays the money up front, you take those 3 and you condense it. Now it's a much shorter interval between the 3. Therefore, you have a vaccine that's still not made too fast. It's just made more efficiently because you don't have all the red tape in between. And all the top scientists came in and they're doing the same thing and they're working. So things can move much faster. And if anything, I would say this vaccine was probably scrutinized more than any vaccine that ever has been in existence on this planet. So if there's a safe one, it would probably be this one.
And Dr. Moore, if I heard it right, these pharmaceutical companies were busy with all their other drug, whatever else they were doing, they were busy. They stopped everything and focused their entire enterprise on developing this vaccine. Unprecedented. Right. Now, the fact that we can't get it into everybody's arm is a different story, but the science worked.
The science worked. Science worked very well. And for perspective, as I mentioned before, our most effective vaccines, sometimes even now with flu viruses, are 50% effective, and that's the threshold for FDA approval. But now we have vaccines that are 94, 95. I don't know what else you can ask for. That is very good. That's very, very good.
That's extremely good as far as I'm concerned. It's amazing. Let's bring some more. Let's do this. Can you pull Dr. Fauci and let's see what he says? And then we're going to do some word clouds. And then I'm going to bring in some more people and expand the conversation.
Meg, you ready?
You ready for Dr.
Fauci is here? Oh my God, we're getting better.
Hold up. When you have Dr. Ritter and you have Dr. Moore, you have Dr. Thomas, man, you got Dr. Fauci too. I mean, they...
So just before you hit that, Meg, just let me say, breaking news, people, breaking news. And so when you hear him make this announcement from the White House podium, and then we come back and discuss, think about the people we were just talking about, from Chris Sherlock out from Dr. Ritter's office, Ian Moore. Listen to what he says, and then let's talk about will that connect with the audience we're talking about?
Okay. You need to go back all the way back.
No,
that's
she
what
queued it up.
She queued it up. Okay, go ahead.
Couple of days that this variant appears threatening and may demand new vaccines. What do you make of those remarks that seem a lot more alarmist than the administration's view or other vaccine makers?
Well, I know that we don't have enough information right now. As you know, and we've said this, that the profile of the molecular profile of the kinds of mutations that you see would suggest, A, that it might be more transmissible, and that it might elude some of the protection of vaccines. But we don't know that now. We don't know what the constellation of mutations are actually going to be. We have to be prepared that there's going to be a diminution in protection, which is the reason why I keep getting back over and over again and say why it's so important to get boosted. But I think any declaration of what will or will not happen with this variant, it is too early to say. And I think we need to be careful, because I know you're going to be reading a lot of tweets and a lot of comments about this. We're really very early in the process.
You know, one thing too, Dr. Fauci, your constellation, your diminution, that ain't playing too well in the hood, because they don't double do.
Can I pay for a couple of definitions? I'm just saying.
We don't diminution, man. We don't.
So let me hear what I mean. Chris is out there in the shops. Ian and Dr. Ritter have patients coming in, even staff who may be hesitant. That was the man who is the voice of the science. Does it need to be interpreted or reinterpreted for our community? And if
That's
so, how?
Exactly what we need to do. Now, you know that's a rhetorical question, Dr. T. Man, constellation and diminution. I mean, you got to put it. That's why I tell Dr. Moore and Dr. Ritter and Dr. Cook, I mean, just put it where the cows can get it. Would you just tell people what it is? I mean, so could you please interpret what he said, Dr. Moore? Where let's go back to the 5th grade.
All right. So I'm just going to hit the word diminution. So basically, is your antibody protection going to come down? Is it going to be a drop in protection against this particular variant? That's the question. Constellation. Where are these mutations we're talking about? Constellation, he's just using the word, saying that a collection of mutations. That's what I was just talking about when I said the recipe. So basically, is there enough change in the recipe that the cake looks different, or is the cake going to taste horrible? Is it going to be? So in this case, is the virus going to be mild? Is it going to be more transmissible? And because of where these mutations happen in the sequence that we see or in the recipe, that lets you know, at least it gives you an idea. If they're happening in the right area, it makes you concerned about this might make this virus stickier, more transmissible, more virulent, or more basically make you feel worse and make you sicker. So those are all the things that he's talking about. But you're right. So there's a need for us to be able to make sure that we communicate very clearly to everybody and speak to everybody on their own level. Because I know everybody's not, constantly looking into a science book and knowing about mRNA and mitochondria and cell membranes and stuff like that. But we have to make sure that everybody understands.
Absolutely. So that's the kind of thing we need to do. Let's Dr. T tee up the word cloud and see how people are feeling as we do every time. We tell people what the word cloud's about and see if we can tee it up. Okay. So every Thursday when we do this, we ask you, what word best describes how you're feeling right now at this moment in the pandemic? And we asked you to type that in the chat. And for those of you out there in Facebook, you can use the Q&A box and then put in as many words, just separate them by a comma, as many words as possible in the 60 seconds we're going to have. So just start putting those words in right now. And our team is going to build a word cloud. And when it's ready, they'll let us know. And so while people are putting those words in, one of the things that we can do, Omar, is cue up the next and the last clip from Fauci. All right,
Meg?
well, you can do that, and so we can go on and do that, and so we can start bringing in people. Let's cue up Fauci and get the last statement from him, and then we'll go from there.
And while that's being queued up, be mindful, this is going out to millions of households. We don't have millions listening to us here, but we got millions of households listening to what you're about to hear. Roll tape.
For the people who are listening to this, we again talk about why it's important to get vaccinated. I think what's happening now is another example of why it's important for people to get vaccinated who've not been vaccinated, but also boosting. Boosting is really very important because the data that we get on boosting, if you look at the level, for example, of an antibody, a neutralizing antibody, peak following the second dose of a 2-dose mRNA, it's like at this level. If you look at the peak following the third shot boost, it goes way up here. And people ask, why is that important? Because our experience with variants, such as the Delta variant, is that even though the vaccine isn't specifically targeted to the Delta variant, when you get a high enough level of an immune response, you get spillover protection, even against a variant that the vaccine wasn't specifically directed at. And that's the reason why we feel, even though we don't have a lot of data on it, there's every reason to believe that that kind of increase that you get with the boost would be helpful, at least in preventing severe disease of a variant like Omicron.
Dr. Fauci.
All right,
right.
Dr. Moore, what did he say?
He said basically the antibody response that we get after 2 doses of mRNA vaccine is here. But if you get that third shot, you get your boost, it puts it up here. And that in itself, even though the Omicron virus is a new variant, that level of antibody response could still protect you, still give you a certain degree of protection against a new variant. So just like he was saying, Delta, Omicron is new, but if you got a really high antibody response, you basically have more cards on the table to protect yourself if you were ever to be exposed.
So does that mean don't wait to get boosted?
That means I've already been boosted. That means don't wait. If you can get boosted, get boosted. Even the people who have had natural infections, don't be fooled. You get a much higher antibody response after you get if you get vaccinated, even 1 dose, after you have had a natural infection, you get a skyrocket in your antibodies, and that's going to help you stay protected. That's why Dr. Ritter just said people who are getting infected 2 and 3 times, because natural infection doesn't give you the same degree of protection as a vaccine 2 doses or a vaccine following a natural infection.
Yeah. Let's bring Mike Dynamite Brown up and let him join us in the Hollywood squares. Hey, Mike Dynamite Brown, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
Good, good. Well, happy belated Thanksgiving, Indigenous Day, wherever you like to put it.
Same to you.
Eat too much, man? Did you do okay with
I did well. I tried to smoke some ribs for the first time. It was epic fail, but I had some backup, so it was good to go.
So you already starved to death.
No, we didn't do none of that, but the ribs, I was sad about those. That was an epic fail.
So what's happening out there, man? What you hearing? I asked Chris about what he was hearing. What are you hearing now?
I had a conversation with one of my good clients, and he hasn't been vaccinated, but he's really edging towards it because the conversation is coming from hell no to tell me more. And some of the questions that he had, it was like, well, they say that the vaccine can protect you and all this stuff. He said, okay, I'm with that. But what he hasn't heard is, what will it do anything to you in the long run? And I thought that was a fair question, and I couldn't answer that. I think if we could get some more literature out about long-term effects about it, I think it would give maybe some people who are still saying no a little bit more, say, well, at least I know what I'm dealing with. I think a lot of it is the racism that has happened to our community in the past, going back to slavery days and whatnot.
Mhm.
but it's also a part of what I just said. Also, it's just the unknown of what's going to happen 4 or 5 years down the line. They say, "Oh, I told you this." It's like they're looking for something, but
Mhm.
at the same time, I still try to keep them in the forefront by saying, so while you take that position, if you get sick, look what happened to my man Lou in 1 week. I mean, that's like, you don't really have time to make that decision, but I understood what he was saying. And I wish I could have gave him some literature or something about the long-term effect after you've been vaccinated or boosted.
Dynamite, just tell the audience who the gentleman was that passed you were just talking about.
Good friend of mine, more so friend to Fred. I met him through Fred, so the relationship is stronger there. But once I met him, he just became like we like brothers. And he was on the hell no wall. His position was, I'm not going to get vaccinated. And he was talking to Fred and telling him that he was going to come to our clinic, the vaccine clinic, on Monday and make a decision then. But unfortunately, he caught coronavirus like Monday, hospitalized Thursday, and died Saturday. This was like a month ago now. Fred and I attended the services. So much life that was just left on the table looking through the memorial. And
Did he have kids?
he had 9 kids and 3 grandkids. So talking to my friend who's on the wall, coming off of the hell no wall, I like to say, and leaning towards it, looking for some more information that I don't have, or at least I haven't heard it, of what being vaccinated would do to you in the long run.
Right. Well, we got a person on that can at least give us what we know so far, because I'm sure that there are things that we don't know, but there's some things that are knowable. And Dr. Moore, help us out with that. I want you to talk to that young man, because hopefully we can get him this video if he's not watching now, and kind of talk to him. Unmute.
Yeah, no, I first of all, I want to say sorry about your friend. That is a story, especially, and I hate to pick particular groups, but especially amongst middle and younger Black men, that has been so, you just said it, so much life left on the table. And that's been the story. And so there are a number of things, there's so many things I want to touch on there. But the biggest thing I want to say is, first, I have conversations all the time with people my age and a little older or a little younger, and they want to know same thing. What's the long-term effects? So I come back with the same response. The long-term effects is that the immediate term effects is that you're going to be here. That's the immediate term effect, is that you're going to be here, because people are not dying from the vaccine. People are dying from COVID. So yes, you can say, hey, what's going to happen 5 years from now? 2 years from now, you could get hit by a car. It can be completely unrelated to the vaccine, but the fact is that right now we know for sure that COVID is killing people. And if you have a way to protect yourself, you can ask all the questions. It's fair to ask the questions, but sometimes you got to weigh odds. This is where you have to weigh. This is cost benefit. You got to say, hey, is it worth me taking this vaccine? Because let's put it this way: if the ultimate fear and the ultimate question is death. Death is, we know what's causing death right now. But mRNA vaccines, just to be honest, they've been around for about 20 years. mRNA vaccines are really, really safe vaccine methods. But in particular, up until recently, they weren't even used because the mRNA that they injected was too fragile. You inject in the body, your body would destroy it. So they had to wrap it in nanoparticles, lipid, and so nanoparticles are not machines, they're just fat. And that fat helps it get into the cell. So really, it's a very safe method. It's probably going to become very, very popular. It's going to probably take the place of some of our more conventional vaccines. But the biggest thing is that your long-term effects is that you're going to be here. And as he said, 5 years from now, he's going to say, I told you so. But he's going to be here 5 years from now to say, I told you so.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing is the long haul effects. We do know that even if you survive COVID, people have significant diminishing different mental capacity and mobilities and a lot of other things. Talk a little bit about, we know that to be the case as well.
Yes, yes. So long haulers. So I even saw a number that said about 60% of people who have natural infection end up having some kind of mental deficiency of some sort, mental fog, or whether it be some kind of bout with depression. So this thing has effects on so many aspects of your life that people are taking chances by allowing themselves to get naturally infected, not knowing the long-term effects of that. People have long-term heart issues, cardiovascular system is damaged. It's a lot of stuff that's going on. But I had a conversation with a group of young men, and I asked them a question. This was a conversation about COVID, and I opened the question. I said, "How many of you guys have life insurance?" Like 2 hands in a room of like 20 went up. And I said, "But how many do you have kids?" About 18 of the hands went up. So just like you mentioned, having 9 kids and 3 grandkids, you don't expect to pass away at a young age. You don't expect to. But then now we're putting ourselves in positions where if that happens, now not only will we affect ourselves, but we affect our families. Kids are now without a parent, but they also without that financial support. So there are lots of things that we have to consider. So if you don't want to get vaccinated, I'll tell anybody, get your stuff in order and at least make those plans so that if something were to happen, because it's your choice, if something were to happen, at least your family's taken care of rather than leaving everybody out there to hang out dry. You gone, they don't have anything, they're struggling, and you don't want to leave your family in pain. So if you don't want to get a vaccine, which it'll have to be your choice, then at least take those steps and putting stuff in place so if something were to happen to you, your family's taken care of. But the biggest thing to do that is keep yourself here by taking the vaccine.
Yeah. Well, we're going to bring some more people. Thank you, Dr. Moore, for making it plain, because that's what we need to do. We just got to have plain talk. We want to bring up the word cloud and see how people are feeling now. And then we're going to go and highlight one of our shops.
So here we go here. And as we move forward, please speak to what you see. But right now, Omar, what do you see?
Well, motivated just seems to be right in front of my face, and of course confused. So I'm motivated to do something, but confused because I don't know what to do. And people are ready, they're concerned, they're challenged, they're protected, they are tired, they are proactive, they are blessed, they are prevention. And of course, what the hell? I don't know what I don't know what that is. That may be what it is. I don't know what it is. That's probably something Andre wrote.
It kind of was, yes. It was right after Dr. Fauci.
I knew it was you. I see.
Look how we're getting to know one another.
Yeah, I knew it was Andre. I knew it. It sounds like something he'll do, right?
Well, the reason is, and I don't want to take away from what we're doing right now, kind of, but the reason is, I think that was one of the brothers was saying, I think it was Chris, who was saying that what we need, and I don't know if it's a we thing, I know what I need is to have some more information so that when I can break things down a little better for when people say, well, I don't think there's been enough research done. And quite frankly, there's been quite a bit. Dr. Moore just said, there's been a heck of a lot of research done.
Beep.
Yeah,
beep. You and Dr. Ritter, I don't know what I'm going to do.
but what I'm saying is we need that, because you guys have break it down to the 5th grade. And I found, because I tend to be a trainer anyway, but there's a lot of information that has to be broken down and you have to repeat it 3 or 4 times before someone gets it. So, and I'm in a particular situation where, at the airport at least, where I don't get a second chance to tell somebody something because the traffic just moves. But however, at the shop, at the mall, we have opportunities to talk to people on more than one occasion. And it takes more than one occasion for them to even get what we're talking about. Because I had one guy come in and talk about, well, you know, we have a flat earth and we're getting ready to do this. I said, excuse me? What? What? So, so there's a lot of stuff going on out here. And because you academicians are well aware of what's happening within your aura, but us out here, we're still, you know, I only have a master's degree, you know, which is doing me quite well, by the way, but I'm not a doctor, so I'm not familiar with a lot of these other things because I've done the research. I've been working with Emory for years on the hypertension and things like that. And Dr. Bohr, I'm gonna need to talk to you a little bit more later. But because even right now, I'm a more action-oriented person. Right now, I've talked to the health department and Dr. T helped me out on that initially. And so what we have now is shots for the next, they've committed for the next couple of months for the health department. However, I'm at the point where I have no more money to do any flyers and things like that. And of course, the health department said, well, you know, we got the shots, we got the medicine, we've got the refrigerators. All we needed are people to put the shots in the arm. So, and that's kind of where I am, which is why I'm excited about what we're doing right now. Because the two things that I really wanted to accomplish with me doing what I do is get the information to share with the people and survive for the next generation. I want some grandkids. I got 4 sons and they're all doing various things, but not giving my wife grandkids yet. So, but I want to be around for that. So,
you know,
I think I talked too long.
No. We wanted to hear your voice, and I queued it up. It was my fault.
Well, there's no blame.
Take us back to the full screen. Take us back to the full screen. We're good. Thank you so much. All right, man. Andre,
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
No, we love you, Andre. Everything cool. You good? We have Dorothy Reynolds. We want to bring her on, and of course, if Dr. Weeks, if you're still around, we want to make sure that you get your camera on so we can spotlight you as well.
Yeah. So while they're getting spotlighted, I just want to say I got a flash here from our own Dr. Tuesday Cook. She got boosted, and she says, "I got boosted," and she's having, some people have a little reaction. She needed to lay down and kind of rest through it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what you do when you're talking to people. That's the biggest side effect: a little soreness in the arm, a little maybe fatigue. So she's lying down, but she sends her regards, and that's how people feel about coming on Thursdays.
Right. That's good. I mean, it's like, I have to admit it. I'll go on and admit it. I missed you guys last week. I have to admit it. Okay, all right, that's over.
Even though you gained a pound, but
I sure did. Okay.
Look at Ritter.
All right. So let's do this. Let me do this. I'm gonna bring Dr. Francesca Weeks on so that we can kind of talk with her, because she really understands what's happening with the dynamics of how people are dealing with this. So let's elevate her and Dorothy Reynolds as well. See if we can get them up into the space. They are already here. And so let me see, Dr. Weeks, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you? How's everybody doing this evening? It's good to see everybody.
Was Thanksgiving okay for you? Good.
I went to North Carolina, and I'm the cook, so I cook the whole time. So yeah.
I hope you've been kind of following what we've been talking about. We're trying to really get to a point that we can get very granular in terms of talking to people one-on-one, having family conversations, and equipping the people, because a lot of people want people to be vaccinated because we know that's going to protect them, but they don't have the knowledge to answer the questions that are being posed, right? Based on the hesitancy. And that's a challenge. So how do we get past that?
So I'm just be real honest, the conversations I've been having probably the past month or two, everybody's saying we're exhausted, we're tired of talking about COVID. It's one of those things where people are just they're over it. Like they
Right.
want a different conversation. They want to turn on the news, they want to see something else. And people are understanding that there probably will be a conversation about COVID for years to come. It's a virus, just like the flu or anything else. The conversation about COVID is not going away. But in order for us to start rolling back and getting back to spending more time with our friends and family, we all have to have our preventative measures, wear masks sometimes, we have to social distance, and we need to get vaccinated. And so until people understand that there's just some very basic things that we've been saying for now over 18 months that we still can't get everybody to abide by, we're not going to go back to as many family gatherings as we wanted to. A lot of the stories I heard around Thanksgiving is that families actually didn't have some big family events because half the family wasn't vaccinated. So a lot of people were not invited to Thanksgiving dinner. People's feelings were hurt. And I expect that'll be the same thing going for Thanksgiving and maybe even as far as Easter next year when families normally come together around those holidays. And the message we want to tell people is that we want to get back to that. We want to get back to loving on each other and spending time. But we want everybody to be healthy and well and protected, be able to go back to that. So our hope is just, again, like I said, had the conversation today with some of our peer ambassadors in Baltimore. They said they're tired of having the same conversations. I said, I know we're tired, but some people have to have this conversation 50 times before it clicks. And they say, oh, I get it. Let me get this vaccine so that way I can go back and spend time with people and be in the places I like to be. Or even now, the interesting thing to me is I'm looking at how many people are upset because certain countries are shut off from traveling. And again, we want to get back, but it's just not where we're at right now.
Yeah, and I've heard that same thing, Dr. Weeks, is people are tired, and you can understand how this kind of roller coaster, particularly for people who've gotten vaccinated, did all of this mitigation measures, and then they're saying now, you have to reconsider some things and maybe pull back from some things that you thought you were going to be able to do. So I understand, how people can get frustrated with that, but we cannot get weary in well doing, and because we're really trying to save our lives and save the lives of everybody, right? That's what we're trying to do. That's why we call it community immunity, is because we're trying to save everybody's life, not just mine, but everybody's, right? So thank you so much, Dr. Weeks. You add so much to the conversation and just keeping it real, as we say. Stay right there. Dorothy Reynolds, we are so proud of you.
Arkansas.
Arkansas, now she's Pine Bluff. Do not go to the other place, right? So we have to make sure that you know where she is, right? Now, did I get it right, Miss Dorothy Reynolds?
Yes, you did.
Okay, all right. So how you doing today?
I'm doing fine. We're in the process of planning our follow-up shots at the shop for people who received their vaccination for the first time, and for the children that received their vaccinations for the first time. And that one will be held on December 18th. Even though I'm in Pine Bluff, but a lot of people who've been helping me are coming out of Little Rock. The state health department has been so helpful. And the doctor and his wife that have volunteered with us is a doctor that he used to work in Pine Bluff, but he moved his practice to Little Rock. So he still feels committed to our community. And they gave up their Saturday to come and help us, and they're coming back. And we have stylists that are RN nurses that are there in the beauty salon, and they volunteer to help give the shots also.
That's wonderful. Well, you know, you are truly a model, and that's why we like to highlight people like you and shops like yours, because you are literally saving lives. And Dr. Moore, when you see the intentionality of what Ms. Reynolds is saying, you know, that she's literally having events where people are going to get shots, and we know that a shot can equate to a life saving, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
so we have to look at it from that vantage point, right?
Yes.
So thank you so much for saving lives. You know, we're saving lives, and that's what this is all about, right?
You know, Omar,
Thank you.
just very briefly, because I had a chance to speak with Miss Reynolds on the cell phone, and then we did a three-way with her clinical partner. And I just want everybody out there to know that the physicians who are working with her, the state health department folks working with her, they're so excited that they can show up at her place of business and the arms are ready, that the trust that she has and the trustworthiness she has to bring them in. And what we've seen, Dorothy, is that many of these clinical partners now realize the value of the barbershop salon network, and maybe, and we hope, they'll be there to address the underlying health disparities that have been plaguing our community. So I want to congratulate you once again. Let's give her some snaps. You've got
Love
great
you so
collateral.
much.
Love your poster.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Team, bring up Sandra Jenkins and let me holler, as they say, let me holler at her. Hey, how you doing?
Well, good afternoon or good evening, everyone.
Absolutely.
I've been on a mission all day long and looking forward for tonight. I just like to say I can echo everything that everybody is saying here. You know, there's no need to be redundant here, but my whole, I guess, energy is right now is behind prevention. And we will continue to roll out, you know, our vaccination clinics at our salon for the entire community per se. There are people who have gotten vaccinated who are not necessarily clients of ours, but we allow them to come in and to bring their family. But the most beautiful thing of all is that now children are included, and more people are really understanding that this is not a political issue. This is a healthcare crisis. So I must say that, you know, we will take every preventive measure, okay, to keep this as an ongoing basis for us. So I'd just like to say thank you.
Well, you're another one of our stars. I mean, we really appreciate you for what you do as well. And you've been very intentional again and consistent in doing this. And that's what we have to do. It cannot be a one and off. We have to dig in on this, and we have to kind of decide that we're going to continue to do it. And for some people, like what Andre said, sometimes you have to tell people 2 or 3 times. They say that you have to tell people 7 times before they really get it. And so we need to continue. So you cannot be redundant, is what I'm saying, Ms. Jenkins. You can't be redundant. Let's say it as many times as we possibly can. Now, Dr. Moore, dealing with children now, you know, you asked me to get vaccinated. I got vaccinated. Now you want me to get my 5-year-old child vaccinated, right? How do I now have that conversation? Now you have children as well, and I'm sure that you have to make a decision about your children and their vaccination status. So I can talk to you as a physician, a doctor, but I also can talk to you as a father, right? And that's
Right.
the hat I want you to put on.
Hey, so I got both of my kids vaccinated. As soon as when I say the day that the CDC gave the green light, my kids were, the next day, my pediatrician had an email in our inbox, and we were in line the next day to get vaccines. I'm not, you know, now you talk about not playing around with myself. I'm definitely not playing around with them, because what I don't want is my kid to get sick. Now, what I will say is that, you know, a lot of times these kids are not, luckily, kids are not getting as severely ill as regularly as people, as the parents are, but the kids are usually getting these infections from the parents. They're getting it at home. And so that's just another way to transmit, and the cycle continues. But I absolutely got my kids vaccinated, because what I want to do now, you know, if we have people who are going to be staunch, you know, in their corner, I'm not going to get vaccinated. I feel better now knowing my kids have some protection, because they are inadvertently exposed. I'm wearing my mask, they're wearing their mask. But if somehow at school or somebody else's kid comes, so you just don't know what asymptomatic spreaders, that's something you're stealth mode. You can't even figure, you don't even know when it's going on.
Right.
So I got my kids vaccinated. I would absolutely tell anybody, get your kids vaccinated. You know, mine 8 and 10, and they were right there. They got their shots, and they've heard a lot about vaccines. I'm gonna tell you that right now. They could probably tell you a lot about mRNA. And they were completely fine with it. Yeah,
they even know how to hold the spike protein model, don't
they? Hey, they do. They do. You better believe it.
Yeah.
You know, Omar, a question came up about the side effects of the vaccine, and we addressed that. I'm going to ask the barbers and stylists to think right now, do you have literature in your shops right now about long hauler condition? That's real. We do have data on that. And if you don't have any literature in your shops about long hauler, let us put our thinking hats on and get some to you, because that's the answer.
Are you saying longhorns?
Long hauler.
Hauler.
Yeah, you're thinking about
like long haul truckers.
You thinking about
long hauler.
You thinking about a football team.
No, it's a steakhouse, actually.
Right. I knew something. I knew you had something.
So that is a very important piece, because these young athletes, their careers could be shortened by the diminution in their physical abilities with long haul. If they get it. There's that word again.
Dr. T, can you tell Meg to go ahead and send me some information on that?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just because what I'm passing out is the stuff that you guys gave me initially.
Okay.
And I'm kind of out of that right now. So
absolutely.
You know,
and we have more information on long hauler, and there are support groups of all these people who have been infected and have long hauler. They have formed Facebook support groups. That's how big this thing is.
Oh my goodness.
Well, one of the things that we need to do, Dr. Moore, you and Dr. Ritter and others, we need to figure out a way to get the information, synthesize it, and put it where it's people can understand it. We need to do better at messaging. Now, I want Dr. Weeks is left us right now.
She's up. She's up in the. She's here.
Yeah, bring her up. Don't leave me, Dr. Weeks. Please don't leave me. Please don't leave me, Dr. Weeks. Okay, here we go. Dr. Weeks, we're gonna. I want to put you on the spot as we have this conversation. I had a conversation with some people who said that politics and religion has really had an influence over vaccine hesitancy in ways that we never thought it would. How do you deal with that when you know, because people don't, they see it as an abomination. Give me another word, because that's probably one of those diminution words.
Too many syllables.
Right, you know, I mean, so I mean, when people say, you know, it's a I don't want to, you know, betray my faith, right? Because my minister says do not get vaccinated, right? So and then you got politics, and so this kind of tribalism that's taking place. That they're seeing now that the majority of people who are not vaccinated are in red states, right? And so, which means that there is some influence politically over vaccine hesitancy. How do we deal with that, Dr. Weeks? And that's a hard question for anybody, but I know you can help.
So actually, you know, I run policy coalitions in 6 different states across this country during session. Texas just had a special session 2 weeks ago where they passed policies that ban mask mandates. Florida had a special session 2 weeks ago that banned mask mandates and the vaccination mandates in the state of Florida for different federal and state employees. Also, they had some policies to go through that preempted local businesses from being able to put in place certain preventative preventions, both for red states. The other state was Tennessee. They had a special session also as well. So Texas, Tennessee, and Florida all have had special sessions called by their governors specifically to block all the mask mandates or vaccination mandates that came down from the federal government. When you have your elected officials in these areas that are fighting against things to help protect and prevent, especially communities of color, communities that are disparate, that are having issues, it just puts more fuel to the fire for local officials or local advocates or local public health authority to help people get vaccinated or give them the right education and information that they need. So right now we're expecting a lot of legislative session starts back in 4 weeks. We're already ramping up in our 6 most conservative red states to fight against these different public health authority policies that are the powers being taken away from our local governments to put in protections for our local communities. More than we know, most of the communities that are having the powers taken away are communities led by Black legislators. So we're having literally, I just got a couple calls today with some different states of how we're working with fighting back, putting together these different campaigns because we know it's coming hard and heavy. It's hard to go out to these communities and have that conversation when you have the leaders putting in laws and bills blocking what we can do, the resources, the access, it's being blocked, the testing. We're at some point in Texas and Florida where they have completely demolished testing sites for COVID. So it's a fight, and we're pushing through. We do have people in these areas that we give resources to help fight against this. In terms of religion, I tell people it's interesting because I grew up Southern Baptist, and I grew up in a church where every Sunday we ate fried chicken, and then once a year we talked about heart disease. So
that's a good one.
You know you're wrong for that.
That's a good one. Watch out for the lightning.
Watch out now. Watch out now.
I know. We can't say anything bad about the fried chicken in the church, but
that's not religious. That
right. But it's one of those things where I think we really have to open our eyes up and then say, yes, prayer is something. I believe in prayer. I'm a woman of faith, but I'm also a woman of science. I'm also a woman of believing that God gave us enough common sense to do the things that is best for our bodies and the community. So there comes a point in time where we have to ask people, is your faith to you more important than the science that gives you facts showing that this is something that will help keep you alive and be on this earth for a little bit longer? And a lot of people don't want to hear that conversation. They really just want to hear the conversation that I believe that if this is my time to go. And if my religious leader is saying, this is not the way to prevent yourself from passing on, you shouldn't take this method. So it's becoming interesting because people believe and have a lot of trust in their faith-based leaders. And it's hard to contradict that when that's what their belief is.
Well, we found that a lot of faith-based leaders have died from COVID. That's another thing. And many of them who tell people not to get vaccinated are vaccinated themselves. And I think the hypocrisy, right, is what we need to really challenge. I mean, if you believe something and that you're willing to sacrifice your life for it, I think that's one conversation. But the disinformation that's being spewed by people who have protected themselves and placed the people who listen to them and follow them in jeopardy, I think that's egregious. And I think there needs to be something legislatively that we come up with to hold people accountable for doing that, because that's tantamount to murder to me.
Oh, but you're getting into the religion versus state interfering with a religion. That's a whole nother policy issue.
Yeah, but see that I don't think we can call this religion. We're talking about a public health issue, and that's something one of the problems, and I think we oftentimes conflate with personal rights with, with public issues, right? We say, I have a right to do this. Well, you can't run a red light, right? You don't have a right to do that. When you go to get on a plane, they strip you, right? You can't even get on a plane unless you go through all of those metal detectors and all of that,
Take your shoes off, all kinds of stuff.
you make your shoes off and belt and everything, right? So there's something about this whole notion of living together, right? And we need to come to that space and have conversations from that vantage point versus this kind of individual rights and that kind of thing. And I don't know how to have that conversation, but I know we have to have it, right?
Omar, as you know, and I'm glad you're there with legislators, and I'm assuming they're not legislators who are pushing the don't get vaccinated, given all
they have to
to
be
get to that
vaccinated
conference.
to be here.
Right.
Right.
So what I'm saying is, can you believe we are 4 minutes to closing, my brother?
Yeah. let me show you this. And this, and Dr. Moore, help me out with this. This is what they put in my packet, right?
Yeah.
It's
that's a quick test.
Yeah, that's a home
next
test
quick
that the
test.
insurance
Yeah.
will cover now.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
15 minutes, and but it's now what I will tell you. I like that you showed that. That test is just kind of a general, like that's the broader net. So you take that test and it says you're positive. What you need to go do is then you need to go follow up with a PCR, which is more specific. That's kind of your wide angle lens to see, hey, is there something wrong? Your PCR tells you, confirms it. PCR is much more specific, but that's good to have if you think that you might, have COVID. Definitely get you a home test. And as the sir just said, I think they're trying to push now for insurance to pay for it so that people can afford to get them much easier.
Why don't we just have these? You were talking about some place or some country, Dr. T, where you said that they have them almost for free. That you
€1.
€1.
And in that's right. And in the District of Columbia, I'll hold this up for Mayor Bowser. You can go to a public library. Here's the test kit at the public libraries in the District of Columbia, and on the back is reinforcing the message. I sent the photo of this to our legislators in Maryland, saying, "Why aren't we doing this in the state of Maryland?" Now, imagine the database that the district has, knowing the prevalence, of these results. The results come back on your phone. Hey, Omar, the other countries have done something like this. Our friends in Canada, you don't want to be vaccinated? We're not going to mandate it. But you want to get on an airplane? Show your vaccination card. You want to get into a concert? Show your vaccination card. You want to get in a restaurant? So you want to make that choice? Then here are the consequences. We haven't gone there yet.
Yeah, well, they are doing it here. They had a concert here, and you had to be vaccinated to go to the concert. They had the conference. Obviously, everyone in the conference has to be vaccinated, verified, not say I'm vaccinated. You have to send your card to them. And of course, they have some way of, you all know, the doctors know, they have a way of checking whether or not that's fake or not, right? Right. And so you have to be vaccinated. And these are legislators from around the country. And you know what, I would be curious to see how many didn't come because they say that they were not vaccinated, we're not going to get vaccinated. I'm going to ask that question. And then we'll have that conversation on the other end. It's time to go. I can't believe it. But they say time flies when you're having fun. In fact, we don't have time for any really closing other than to say thank you. Really, thank you. Dr. Moore, thank you so much, man. You always bring.
Let's give some snaps for.
We love you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Dr. Moore.
We love the 5th grade explanation.
And Dr. Moore.
Hey,
you're coming to Emory. We are literally down the street from Emory. I don't know where you're going to be, but our shop is literally down the street from the campus.
I was just getting ready to say, I need a barber in Atlanta.
You got one now.
When you arrive, stop at the airport. I've got a shop at the airport.
Okay. All right.
So you got that's what we call, Dr. Moore. That's what we call the hookup.
That's right. That's right.
You know, so
We
okay.
can talk about price later. We can talk about price later.
Yeah, well, you know, Dr. Moore, I'm looking at your head. He should give you half price.
No, we're talking specialty cuts. He's got to look
Oh,
good because he
man.
represents
So
all of us.
you would charge me for my haircut, right? You know, get out of here. All right. Well, Dr. Weeks, I apologize for us to digress from that. You know, you shouldn't have to go through this, sit through that part. But anyway, thank you, Dr. Weeks, for coming in and always being so willing to share in such a genuine way. Thank you so much. You bringing your expertise to us. Thank you so much.
Meg, give Dr. Moore my information.
Okay.
Will do.
All right.
Got you.
All right. Mike, Dynamite, man, love you so much. Thank you for all you do and for your being here with us and keeping it real, as you always.
Likewise.
Chris, you know, man, you're gonna probably be a preacher, if you're not already one. You know, you always have something profound to say, and so the next time we're gonna let you say it, right? And you know, Dr. Ritter, thank you so much for everything you do. You always just, you know, we love you so much, and we missed you last week, and so we don't ever want to miss you again. So let's keep.
You know I love you.
Right, right. Dr. T, you know what it's about, man. You were the genesis of bringing us together, man. And we thank you so much for your vision. And you know, let's give Dr. T. You know, a lot of time the leaders, we don't give them their proper due, man. But we need to give Dr. T the due, man, for having this kind of vision and bringing people together. You know, just a uniter. So thank you so much for.
Thank
for
you.
that. And
you're gonna have me break out my hats. Be careful.
Yeah, you're right. You know, and to each of you, thank you all for listening to us, for hopefully paying attention to what we're saying. Although we laugh and we have a little fun because we want to we want to be serious, but at the same time, laughter is medicinal. Right? Laughter is medicine. And so we do it like that as well to balance it out. And that's all we can do because we got to get out of here. And as always, I'd like to leave you with these two words. Remember that I love you with a perfect love. But more importantly, remember this. You got the power. Until next week. Have a wonderful.
You got the power.
Bye-bye.
See you next week.